Hey, welcome back to Everyday Economics. This is the podcast that you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug. I'm publisher of the Center Square Newswire service. Everyday Economics is brought to you by the Center Square. To support Everyday Economics, please make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We're recording this episode on Monday, November 24th, 2025. And joining me as always, my friend and colleague, PhD economist, Dr. Orphe Divounguy. Dr. O, it's Thanksgiving, which I will tell you straight up is my favorite holiday of the year.
I do like the fact that people stop to say thanks. Thanks. Like that is so cool.
And there's no gifts. You can't buy somebody something in the wrong size or the wrong color.
Yeah.
And in theory, this is a time where families and friends get together and they do give thanks for the things that are great about our country and are great about the life that they're living and I think for the people that they have in their lives. So it's like for those reasons, I love Thanksgiving.
All right, same here, man. Same here. It's less about the food. I actually don't like turkey.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great. That
you're gonna have turkey this weekend. You are gonna like it, and I think that this is the Thanksgiving where your opinions about turkey completely turn around. For one reason, prices of turkey are down. So we want to talk about like year over year. I guess what this Thanksgiving from an economic standpoint cost the American public versus last year. There are some factors. I mean, obviously, things in the economy are not stagnant. There's a lot of flow and flux. About a year ago at this time, I think we were coming down out of a rash of avian flu.
Yes.
So actually, let me throw the numbers at you, and then we'll get into some talk about sort of around prices because the word affordability has become a buzzword. I don't know why affordability is a buzz right now. We've had affordability problems, in the United States really since COVID and, COVID relief dollars started to come in and really change the picture of the economy dramatically in short order.
It's really interesting you say that. But jobs are abundant.
That's true.
That's so abundant that people were quitting their jobs in droves and going to the next best paying job.
Yes, they were.
This whole thing, what this whole thing tells me is that potentially people put more weight on their jobs, or maybe not, because at the time you start to hear, 2021, you started to hear about inflation, right? So I don't know. I mean, when you look at sentiment today, it's all about the jobs and the labor market.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that there are some drivers that exist in news media where subjects get latched on, right? But then they're talked about largely, I think, the same way. And right now, you cannot make it through a newscast or a story from one of the bigger media companies without the word affordability baked into it, right? So here are just some facts, okay? This year's Thanksgiving dinner is actually going to cost you less in unadjusted dollars than last year's dinner cost. One of the biggest reasons for that is turkey prices are down, according to the American Farm Bureau, somewhere in the ballpark of about 16%. And stuffing and dinner rolls are down. Fresh cranberries are down, okay? Overall, this year's dinner is going to cost about $55.18. Last year's Thanksgiving dinner cost $58.08. So it's down about $3. But the price of turkey is driving that. The price of vegetables, as I'm looking at this chart, it's surprising to me. The cost of vegetables has gone way up. In some cases, like sweet potatoes, they're up 37%. Frozen green peas, they're up 17.2%. Milk is up 16%. Whipped cream is up 3.2%. So it's your basket. And I'll tell you what, I just shopped, for Thanksgiving, but I picked up some other things. I'm in a different market. I live and stay in Illinois, and I live in the suburbs outside of Chicago, and I'm here in rural Georgia. I don't know if you call it rural Georgia. I'm here in real America, Georgia. Okay, and my grocery prices are higher here anyway. They're just higher here anyway. I was surprised. I typically will bring home a shopping cart that's in the $200 to $250 range. If I'm buying groceries for a week, my cart was about $300. And so is that about right? Yeah, adjusted for the market, probably so. But some of the things that I was picking up here, I'm not responsible for buying the turkey, so I didn't get the benefit of the savings. I was surprised at the price of some of the things that I buy, and I shop every week. Mm-hmm. So tell me what's your take on, sort of like the real world aspect of this. As Americans are getting into this show is going to air probably after Thanksgiving, simply because it's a short week. What was it that we, I guess, ultimately would have put on our Thanksgiving table this year in terms of expenses, and what were the drivers?
I think ultimately, if you look at price data, price growth is slowing, right? The increase in the price level is this year over the past year is lower, not much, but somewhat lower than in the previous year, right? And so that's the good news. Second good news is wage growth is, even though wage growth is slowing, it's outpacing the increase in prices. Mm-hmm. And that means purchasing power has actually improved over the past year. And that ought to make people a little bit happier. Mm-hmm. Maybe so even that's the story here. Is that things in real terms are actually a little bit better. In terms of prices, in terms of affordability, right? And we see it across every sector, even in housing. Affordability hit a 3-year high last month, and so affordability is improving. Things are expensive, but the affordability picture is improving because wage growth has remained somewhat strong, right? Now, of course, that's cooling along with a cooling labor market, which is why the Fed ought to do everything it can to keep the labor market afloat. Uh-huh. That is why I think a rate cut in December should still be on the table, despite the fact that we will not have official labor market numbers until after the interest rate decision day.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that that certainly I think that as Americans get together, they'll be talking about what's going on in their real experiences, and that's we encourage everyone to dial in and think about sort of how things are and how they are dealing with changes in the economy, and have that conversation. That might even be able to allow people to stay away from politics at the Thanksgiving.
Look, all you have to do is tune into Everyday Economics, the podcast, because ultimately that's what we do, right? We talk about the economy, we stay away from the politics, and it ought to make the conversation a little bit more exciting this Thanksgiving.
Well, thanks again, Dr. O. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure that you listen to Orphe and me every week on the Center Square Radio Hour.